Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout the course of their business, share them with us so that we can all learn together. As always, the show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition channel of conversations with their ideal prospects. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, endless social media posting, or any of the old, ineffective, traditional marketing methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. It's Jason A. Osborn. The link to that will be in the show notes below. But on today's show, I'm excited to have Reiner Lomb. He's the owner of BoomerangCoach, where he provides leadership development, innovation, and transformational change through executive coaching, facilitation, speaking, and writing and publishing books. So, Reiner, thank you so much for being on the show today. And I want to start off by asking a question that I always love to start with, which is this. If you were somehow able to go back in time to when you started your business, but knowing what you know now, what would you do differently in the first 12 months?
This is an excellent question because it's like brings me back many years ago. So first of all, I've been entrepreneur. I started software businesses within a large corporation at Hewlett Packard for 24 years until I really discovered my passion for leadership development, which I started then to do on the side at HP, and then I started my own business. So I think two important milestones. One, being an entrepreneur or starting business within a large company, and then the other one, starting my own business. And I would say there's a lot of learnings, but one is very important. When we start something, when I started something, not everybody believes in it, right? So you are the one that has to believe in it, that has to have a purpose, that have very strong purpose that is aligned with what you believe in, ideally with your higher aspirations, something you want to contribute to the world. So the foundation is very important. Luckily, I had that in both cases. I had a very strong business purpose for the businesses I wasn't helping to start and grow, but I also had a very strong vision, so how that could over time. And the vision is ideally something, I think you need to imagine as something like a compass, right, that you want to go to. You might never fully reach, right? But it's so aspiring. So I think this foundation that your heart is into the business, because you will have resistance from everybody, which brings me to the second point, which is true for both, no matter if you innovate within a corporation or on your own, like being an entrepreneur, is you will have setbacks. You will have setbacks from people that like push back, that sabotage what you're doing, or environments like I coach leaders, obviously, and during the pandemic I have, and many of the leaders I was coaching had these setbacks. Like during the pandemic, they had to shut down their business or had to take a pause or course correction and so on. So I would say being prepared mentally, emotionally for setbacks, for roadblocks, not assuming that the plan you put in place you can execute without any problems, right? So expect that. So what is important there is to cultivate resilience. And resilience it's a wonderful thing I found out through my research and through my writing. I write about emotions and leadership. There's certain emotions that help you support resilience, and that sabotage resilience. So there's a whole palette of positive emotions that help you to be more resilient. It has been measured both physically as well as mentally. So you recover faster when you cultivate positive emotions, and you have a much harder time to overcome setbacks when you are in negative emotions, both for yourself and the people you lead, including, clients, but even including your family, right? You can drive, as a business owner, you can drive your family crazy. I would say those two learnings, having a clear purpose, like clearly a vision and aligned with your higher aspirations, and the other, be prepared for setbacks, cultivate the emotions that help you to be resilient. And there's a whole set of positive emotions. I wrote about that, I published about that, I speak about that a lot because it's so powerful.
Yeah. Both are great points. I think I'd like to talk a little bit more about the second one, because there's we all go through things, we all go through challenges. Sometimes they're challenges that we kind of know a little bit about, thinking, okay, it's a challenge. I knew this would happen. And there's other things that just come out of the blue. You just didn't know to even know to think about it. And you're right, it can definitely have a massive impact on us, and in so many ways. So what are some things for people that come across challenges in business, maybe even personal life, that affects their business,
Yeah.
where it really brings them down? It can be really challenging. What are some things that they can start doing to work through that, to be able to not only manage where they are, but if we're to develop into a growth opportunity for them to be even stronger as they move through that?
Yeah, what I found, and I have been trained rationally. I'm both electrical engineer as well as computer science, and both masters in computer science, but I was a bit master in business. Very rationally trained in how to solve issues, to think through problems, to think. So, and we have been conditioned in school to think, right? The rational thinking. Every teaching is focused on that, not so much on our emotions. Emotions are like the latest research, like from Stanford, was like in our decision making, only 5 to 10% of our decisions are made rationally. 90 to 95% of our decisions are made emotionally. We are not even aware of why we decide this way, because the emotions drive that. So emotions are a big, powerful driver of our behaviors, probably the most powerful driver of our behaviors. So what I'm saying is, your success in leadership and overcoming setbacks, in changing direction, it depends on your behavior, right? On your leadership behavior, decisions you make and how you behave accordingly. But what drives those behaviors, the invisible, what is going inside you, which are the emotions that put you in motion. So to be aware, so your question, my answer is to be aware of those. What are so what are my behaviors? How do I behave right now that is not leading to the results, and how should I behave? And what emotional shift do I need to create in order to drive that behavior? So for example, if I experience that in coaching all the time. So like I'm asked to coach an executive, and the boss says he's not or she's not visionary enough. I want a more visionary leader. I go in, I have a conversation, and I find out that leader lives in resentment. That's an emotion of victimhood, right? So basically, emotion of victimhood in the mind brings you back in the past, and you rehash the past. If your mental capacity is focused on the past, you cannot focus on the future. So you cannot be a visionary leader. You cannot look forward. You need optimism. You need, which is a forward-looking emotion, right? That allows you. It's kind of like a lens into the future, like the emotional lens into the future. So my point, and there's other emotions that I've identified in my work in transformational change and leading people and so on. There's 7 essential emotions. This is just one of them as an example, right? Optimism. And what are the barriers to optimism that allows you to be a visionary leader as an example, right? So you need to be aware, what are my emotions that I'm in, what I'm feeling right now, what is the dominant emotion, self-awareness, and where do I need to shift to, and how can I do that? And that it has been proven that you can learn emotions, you can cultivate emotions, right? So that's just one example.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, maybe this is one of those examples, but what's a way for people to have that future vision when things feel really maybe in a dark time in where they are in their business, or maybe even personal, it's affecting their business? Because it's, I think, easier said than done oftentimes around that, because things happen. Sometimes things really, they're not fun sometimes in business, and it can have that place. So how do we work through that? Because we know it's like, okay, have that vision. We theoretically know that. Practically, how do we apply that?
Yeah, and this is a wonderful question, because that's one of the hardest things to do, right? You are in a situation that is, you're so desperate. You say, this is never going to go bad. How's it ever going to go better? Take us back like 6 years back, right? Like one business after the other, going out of business, and the mood that people are in there. So one of the the techniques, and I do that in workshops as well, because when I lead both community leaders as well as corporations or startups through the exercise of coming up, envisioning the future, right? And so there's a number of techniques. There's one is the shorter the horizon is, the less likely you believe this is possible. Right? If you say, if like you are in the middle of a crisis, like a pandemic, as an example, do you believe it will be next year better? I don't see it, right? If I ask you, if I take you 20 years into the future, do you think you and we as society are possible to overcome this? The person is more likely to say, yes, if I have enough time, if you give me more time. The same is true for anything. I just want to give you a really powerful example. I come from Germany. I grew up at the border to East Germany on the western side. While I could speak up freely on my side of the border, my cousin Heinz on the other side was executed just for speaking up. Okay. So the repression of the system in East Germany, the fear, the pessimism, to the hopelessness was huge, huge. That was a barrier, an emotional barrier to people even going to the streets. They were afraid to go to the streets. In 1989, shortly after Gorbachev visited, that gave a little bit hope, and people were a little bit, suddenly a shift occurred. And people went in the millions into the streets. And every week that number grew up to the point where the East German government could not react anymore. They could not shoot them down. Before they could put people in prison, but they cannot put millions and millions of people in prison, right? And so when they cannot shoot down, a million of people. So that emotional shift from pessimism to hopelessness and so on to optimism that change is possible if I go down the stairs from behind the curtain and join the people marching in the street. So there was this emotional shift that mobilized people, that inspired them to act. And as they saw their neighbors doing it, they said, oh, I can do that too, right? So that emotional shift can not only lead to a personal change for you, like you are becoming a better leader, but you can also, if you want to create a movement, like you have a small business, and you have some vision what that business does, you want to influence people to change their behavior to use your services or your products, or it's always involves a behavior change. So they need to know that when they use your product or your service, their life will be better, their business will be better. That's the same emotional shifts that need to occur with large political movements, revolutions. The same emotions that allow you to make a business successful.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I love the time horizon thing. It's something that I heard a really long time ago, and sometimes I forget it and have to remind myself of it. But it's such a powerful thing that when you do just back away from things, look bigger picture, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, all of a sudden the immense pressure of now goes away. And you're like, well, actually, we can get through this. And I love the whole time horizon thing. It's really interesting that the concept of time and how it impacts our beliefs and emotions around things. Very fascinating.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's other things too, no, in terms of, right, when we talk about optimism, we have two types of optimism. One is we are optimistic that we can do something or achieve something because we experienced it in the past. That is more realistic optimism. I know how to do it. We have done it before, like say if you're in sport, right? Let's say if you won a match against a difficult opponent or you won against somebody, you're behind, you say, oh, I won last time. I can figure it out. So this is more an optimism based on past experience. But there's another optimism that as a business leader, so if you create a business, typically something new, unless you do a franchise, but if you invent something, you innovate something, you want to create something, you envision a future that has never happened before. Like the fall of the wall, this is the political example, right? Had never anybody did that before, right? Bringing a system down like this. So you need to be able to have optimism, despite that you don't have a history in how to do it. And that's very important for entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs need to be able to dream about the future. So you need to say, if they assume there were no restrictions, there were nothing in the way, how would the future look like, ideally, for you? What world, like for some people would say world peace or something like that, right? So, sounds not realistic, but you have to dream first. Then the second step, and that's scientifically proven, if you then identify the barriers, what is in the way? This could be physical, that could be tangible barriers, but it could also be emotional barriers, like I described before, like pessimism or other things, emotional barriers. So you identified all these barriers, your brain in the background, and this is a scientist, she worked with Martin Seligman, she was an assistant. She found out about that type of optimism. She calls it mental contrasting. You say, what is in the way? Your brain starts to work on ways to overcome those obstacles. So basically, so that's what I take people through in workshops or in coaching even. I say, okay, so you dream about that and say, do you think you can achieve that? You say, no, this is too unrealistic. Say, so what do you think is in the way of it? And then you bring it down to behavior change. So how do you need to influence people to change their behavior in order to make your vision a reality, right? And you can bring it down to your value proposition, to what you offer to your clients. You need to bring it down to that example, right?
Yeah, so interesting. Wow, just so much there. Well, we could talk about this forever, but I'm just conscious of time here now as well. But for people that are wanting to learn more about you and understand this better, maybe how you can help them as well, what's the best place for people to get in contact with you on?
Yeah, so there's my website, Reiner Lomb, so my name, first and last name, without a dot or anything, .com. And there's also a page about the books that I have published in the last book. The things that I just talked about are in the book Aspire, 7 Essential Emotions for Leading Positive Change, no matter where you are. You don't need to be a formal leader in order to learn and lead and influence people. And there you find also videos, and you feel articles I've written and so on. But there's a site you can like a contact sheet. You can contact me. But I'm also available on LinkedIn, so people could contact me through LinkedIn. Just invite me or send a message in LinkedIn Messenger.
Amazing. Well, definitely recommend everyone checking out your site and LinkedIn, Reiner, because what you've said, I think it's definitely very, very helpful for many business owners as well. So thank you so much for being on the show and sharing just the depth of wisdom they have around this. Again, I could talk to you about this forever. It's such a fascinating topic to me. So thank you so much for being on and sharing it. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, thank you so much. And as a reminder to everyone listening, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition channel of conversations with their ideal prospects that doesn't rely on any of the old, ineffective traditional marketing methods that everybody hates. So to find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. The link to that will be in the show notes below. And until next episode, stay inspired.